Well, hello there. It's a beautiful time of year, isn't it? Halloween? A time for candy, spooks, and horror cheer. I love every second, minute, hour, and day of it. Anywho, I have a story for you little boys and girls. It's about a little boy by the name of Zane. He is a boy of muted speech, meaning he rarely speaks. His eyes are a gray sort of pigment, which makes him the odd one out. Different, if you must. His hair is the most unique feature about him. His hair is a silver tint, not shoulder, but just below his earlobe length. He was a little bit tall for his age, reaching a height of about 4 feet 8 inches. His weight was below average, being 28.2 pounds. Our story starts off in a large-scaled town known by the name of Jamestown. A very cliché name, no? Zane was considered strange in this town of outgoing and normal outlooks. He was shunned when he first tried making friends, like the local kids surrounding his home and other hangouts. Let's start our story with Zane at the bus station, going to school. It was about 7:40 as he stepped onto the bus. He observed the seats, looking for an open seat where he could sit next to another, hoping to be accepted. As he stepped forward, a small little blonde by the name of Esmeralda moved her bag to the empty space next to her, exchanging a rather rude scowl to him. Zane continued down the alley of the bus, looking for another seat. A rather big boy named Henry laid his feet into the empty space on his seat, laughing at Zane and speaking in a rude voice, stating, "This is a normal kids only seat, freak." Zane looked at him with an emotionless look, as he shrugged and continued down the alley once more, in search of a seat. He finally found a seat at the back of the bus. It was a one-person only seat, and surprisingly, it was not occupied. He quickly set down his small, slightly ragged backpack on the ground as he took his seat, noticing it was slightly uncomfortable. He stared out of the window as the bus drove on through the town, finally reaching the school building, Jamestown Elementary School. He stepped out after the kids ahead of them. He noticed they were discussing his looks and giggling at him, mocking him. He examined the school building and saw it was almost brand new. It was an elementary and high school mixed building. One end was for the majority of elementary kids and the other for high school students. He walked in and noticed the white hallways, wooden doorways into the classrooms, and not to mention the small brown lockers standing at each side of the hallway. He walked to the one with his name written on a small cutout piece of paper in black Sharpie. He put his bag in the locker, taking out his pencil bag and 2 notebooks, one for his drawings and one for classes. He closed it and slowly made his way to the class. It was a normal first day besides the fact the 2 kids that he met on the bus relentlessly tortured him. They went from kicking him in PE to pinning him on the playground and stuffing his mouth with rocks, shoving his food tray in his face at lunch, to even catching him in the bathroom as they shoved his head into the urinals. Zane was a muted and usually civilized child, but one day, a side of him emerged that he never had before. Love. Zane met a little girl named Mia. She was a short girl with dark hair that passed her shoulders, halfway down her back. Her eyes glowed a shade of green that shone like a newly shined emerald. She was the kindest to Zane despite his features and muted nature. Mia and Zane spent a lot of time together. Mia talked to Zane about her pets, her parents, her favorite music and hobbies, and she never minded his muted nature. In fact, she found it kind of cute. They even reached a point of friendship that could be considered love. They began to hold hands at lunchtime. Zane sat with her on the bus, and he even went over to her house once to play. Zane felt happiness, an emotion he thought was non-existent, inside his mind. They both had a special area, the town park. It was on the southeast side of town. Mia and him would play there, as well as sit under the big slide playing games and just talking. He was a sort of loner. He didn't like to be around people, but with Mia, Zane felt a sort of closure, a paradise within her voice and eyes. One day, when he spent the day at her home, she met him outside before he left. She smiled and hugged him, then kissing his cheek softly, which made him blush for the first time. He smiled. He smiled as big as the moon in the midnight sky, it seemed like. She giggled at this and told him that she'd see him in school the next day. She ran back inside her home as he walked home, as happy as he'd ever been in a very long time. But the next day, Zane learned of another emotion, one side of him that could cause damage. Anger. Zane went to meet Mia at her house as he usually does, but she never showed. He waited and waited and waited some more. No sign of her. He walked to school, and along the way he saw her, sitting on a bench at the bus station, with another boy. He looked to see who it was. He felt a pain cross his heart as he saw Henry sitting beside her, holding her hand, talking to her as if they were in deeper love than she and Zane were. He walked over to them. Mia finally noticed him standing near them. Zane felt tears well up, and he dropped his bag. Mia began to stand, but Henry laughed and stood up, walking over to him. Henry stood right in front of him, smirking at Zane's sorrow. He spoke with a very tough and purposely hurtful voice. "You thought she loved you, Free? She never loved you. She only hung out with you to make you feel better. The real thing here is that she loves me, not you, you skinny little freak of nature. You couldn't attract a girl unless she was blind, deaf, or just plain stupid." Zane heard this. He heard it well. His heart thumped hard. His head swirled with emotions. He noticed Mia was standing behind Henry, looking very guilty. He felt a warm sensation rise in his chest. His heart thumped faster, harder. His eyes began to open up as his breathing quickened. His hands balled up in fists. Henry laughed some more, as he knew. Oh yes, he knew he was getting to Zane. However, his mistake was that he thought Zane wouldn't hurt him. Zane quickly lunged at Henry, knocking him down as he pressed his hands at his throat, his anger controlling his movements. Mia started screaming at Zane, pleading him to stop this, to stop hurting the one boy that's been treating him the worst since he's moved here. The one boy who thinks he can take his girl, away from him? No. No. Zane pressed harder as Henry grasped desperately at his wrists, trying to pry him off of his throat. Mia stood there, terrified. Zane felt Henry begin to lose air. Henry slowly began to turn purple, the air circulation not having access to his lungs. Henry's eyes began to close slowly. His hands began to loosen their grip. Henry took one last look into Zane's gray eyes. Within a few seconds, Henry was gone. His heart quit beating. His breathing stopped. Zane, sitting over his body, observed the boy that he just took the life from. He looked at Mia with cold eyes, cold and bloodthirsty eyes as he stood. He still had hatred delving within his heart. His very soul was drenched in the hatred that blinded his common sense. He walked towards Mia, as Mia stood in fear. Zane's mouth turned into a slow smirk, a smirk of revenge. She loved Henry more than him. She double-crossed him. She betrayed his heart. He began to chuckle. His voice was demented, deeper than an average 8-year-old boy. His laugh was a very disturbing laugh, a few cracks of his vocal cords along with the laugh. Mia couldn't move. Fear struck her and kept her standing still. Zane finally reached arm's length of Mia as he held a finger up to her lips, shushing her as he laughed some more. She began to weep in fear of what he'd do. He stopped laughing, but his smirk remained. After a few seconds of complete silence of the moment, he spoke very softly in a whisper. "Betrayer, thy punishment is death." After this, she screamed. He took a swing of his hand, whacking her in the side of the head with an inhuman force and silencing her scream. She fell to the concrete unconscious, also leaving a bloody gash on the side of her head. He laughed some more as he observed his first victim and his heartbreaker. He grabbed the collar of Henry's shirt and lifted him over his shoulder. After this, he grabbed Mia's ankle, beginning to drag her unconscious body along as he walked down the concrete path to surely what would be Mia's demise, as well as Zane's disappearance from this dreadful town. Mia's and Henry's parents both called the police. No one found any trace for days, but soon enough, they checked the place they should have checked first, the bus stop. They spotted a trail of dried blood along the concrete sidewalk. This led to the park. What they found was a terrifying sight. Mia was strung up by her arms, both outstretched as if she was Jesus on one of the crucifixes religious families hung in their kitchens. Her eyes were closed. Her arms and legs were cut, the cuts forming words like liar, betrayer, and heartbreaker. One last gruesome detail was that of her chest. It was cut open. All of the organs seemed to be there, except her heart. Her heart was removed from her body. Instead, it was replaced by a balled-up piece of paper. When authorities opened it, it was a drawing of what seemed like a small child. The child had gray eyes, silver hair, and what seemed to be almost a demonic smile spread across his face. In his outstretched hands contained a drawing of a heart, protruding blood. Finally, at the top of this very disturbing drawing was a sentence written in what seemed like blood. It read, "Love is a lie." Authorities were baffled, but the child on the photograph was never seen, never heard from. Kids told them it was a boy named Zane, same with the teachers. They never caught the little boy. His vengeance was brutal. But the moral of the story? Never betray one's feelings. Never take more than what you need. One is enough. One is most definitely enough, kids.